time. An endless, linear march of events. Unflinching, unwavering, its steady pace has led to the rise and fall of empires, the birth and death of civilizations, and countless projects left in eternal stasis. 8 years. How long truly is 8 years? 8 years of the Revolutionary War. 8 years placed a man on the moon. 8 years saw a 13-year-old Nintendo elitist grow into a 21-year-old metalhead cynic. 8 years with the development of Metroid Prime 4. And people despised it. Its development was fraught with concepts that were hastily added in as the march of time demanded, without the necessary polish that would make them function. What was meant to be a nostalgic celebration became a mass of segregated ideas, and a series known most of all for its cohesion. An 8-year wait became a dilapidated museum of the era's folly. And yes, I love it. Alright, to start this off, this is coming from the perspective of someone who was obscenely late to the Metroid party, as in, I didn't even get into the series until after the announcement of Metroid Prime 4. I had a passing knowledge of the series, mostly thanks to YouTube and Smash Brothers, but my knowledge of it pretty much boiled down to Red Master Chief, but it's a girl? Even though I don't care about Halo either. Sometime in late 2017, I felt like getting into the series and decided to play the first one, then Zero Mission, then the second. I lied to them, but they just registered to me as more 2D platformers. It didn't really occur to me that they were all that special until the following year when Crystal Crisis was announced and exposed me to Cave Story, which would become, to this day, my favorite Metroidvania and my single most replayed game ever. Dang it. A year after that, in 2019, I randomly felt like playing Super Metroid. I was planning on holding off until after getting and playing through Samus Returns, but at that point I had a Switch, and the idea of shelling out for a 3DS game seemed ridiculous, so I bit the bullet and loaded up NSO. If Cave Story is my favorite Metroidvania, then Super Metroid is a very close second. Everything about its world design was perfect. The bosses were amazing. The music was beautiful. It was truly one of those once-in-a-generation perfect games. Immediately when those credits rolled, I went over to my newly hacked 3DS and hopped on Fusion, which, while not as jaw-droppingly incredible as Super, had its own distinct style that I felt was a nice change of pace. That was it until 2021, when we got Metroid Dread, which was a lot like Super, except bigger and shinier and harder and not quite as good, and the music sucked, but hey, it was still a great time. Then 2 years after that came Metroid Prime 1 Remastered, a game that was infamous for having virtually no physical copies at launch, but I got mine from a second batch, and holy crap, it was better than Dread! I've gone at length about how I don't really care for FPSs, and that was even more true back then, but this was so much more than that. I adored combing through the wastelands of Talon 4, finding new upgrades and scanning for lore dumps on the Space Pirates. The year after that came another trailer for Prime 4, the first one since 2017, and it was so amazing that I ended up starting a terrible plotline over on my other channel where I worshipped Nintendo as video game gods. That summer, I downloaded the rest of the trilogy and blazed through Prime 2 and Prime 3 in preparation. 2 was even better than 1 with its higher difficulty and more compact world, whereas 3 sucked. It was overly linear, with separate levels instead of one world, and there were way too many NPCs barking orders at you. I already have issues with people calling the first 2 Prime games Metroidvanias, and Corruption didn't even bother trying. Halo game with a Metroid skin. Turned my excitement for Prime 4 into skepticism, which was compounded by what GameXplain would show the following year. The Galactic Federation was back and more obnoxious than ever! And the game came out. And then the reviews came out. Bloated, barren, generic, obnoxious. The game that some had waited an eternity for was suddenly smacked with a level of vile almost comparable to the Dark Ages of other M and Federation Force. Some even hailed it as the second coming of Duke Nukem Forever. I am not here to dispute any of that. This isn't meant to be a takedown of all those nasty scripts with me screaming, "This game doesn't suck, you suck," the whole time. I would gladly do something like that for, say, Sonic 06 or Shadow Labyrinth. But the thing is that here, I actually agree with all the criticisms. They just don't faze me as much. The game starts, stress signal, things are blowing up, you got our powers, control your boss fight, boom, powers are gone. Yep, that's Metroid Prime. Of course, since this is post-corruption, there's some brief banter with the Federation, but they're the ones who sent the signal, so it's not that big of an issue. Cough. Yes, I said cough. After this, we end up in Sam's Coochie, rated T. There's this little robot that flies around opening gates for us. There's probably another Volvo joke in there somewhere, but I do not have one, nor do I want to stick what I do have into one. So what happened is, these axolotl-looking guys, the Labubu's or whatever, have summoned her down here to reveal to her that she is the chosen one, the one who will deliver the message. A message of hope for those to choose to hear it, and a warning for those who do not. I should have practiced. Wait, that was actually good. Yeah, chosen one, and now she's got psychokinesis. What can you do with it? Open special doors and solve extremely basic puzzles? Come on, even Silver had more uses for his psychokinesis. But this is about what I expected. Anyways, welcome to Fury Green, a beautiful, lush forest brimming with details that make it truly feel alive. This is running on the Switch 1, a system not much more powerful than the PS3 and Xbox 360, and yet this wouldn't look out of place on the PS5. In fact, I dare say it looks better.
Yeah, I finally got around to playing Ninja Gaiden 4, so my conclusion? Yes, it's better than Clair Obscure. Yes, it's better than Tetris the Grandmaster 4. Yes, it's better than Shadow Labyrinth. Yes, it's better than Sword of the Sea. Yes, it's better than Death Stranding 2. And spoiler alert, yes, it's better than Metroid Prime 4. Whether or not it was the best game of last year depends on whether or not you want to count Devil May Cry 3 Crimson, but since that's a mod of a game from 2005, I don't. So yes, Ninja Gaiden 4 was the best game of 2025. But I can't make a full review of it because I am not good at the game, so the whole thing would just be me either gushing about how amazing the combat system looks and also the brutal difficulty, or complaining about the yellow paint.
And I suppose now's a good time to talk about what makes Metroid Prime work when most other FPSs don't. If you've seen my Mirror's Edge video, you know that most FPSs really don't mesh with me because combat really boils down to who gets the shot first. There's no real weight, no natural chaining, you're completely disconnected from the opponent. And if you're up against a bunch of guys who also have guns, you're dead. I cannot aim to save my life, so what ends up happening is I camp out in the corner and fire off a few blanks. Yes, the most engaging thing in the world. Waiting. Well, Metroid Prime does three things differently. For one, combat isn't really the focus. It's not outright punished like it is in Mirror's Edge, but it takes a backseat to the Metroid staple of exploration. It's all about scanning things, taking in the environment, finding new items and equipment along the way. When it comes to things that aren't hack and slashes, I tend to focus more on level design, the path you take through the game, how each room flows into one another, the overall cohesion of the world you're placed into, and especially in games with ho-hum combat, the peaceful interstice between encounters. Putting it another way, I like Zen. I do not like Ravenholm. Here's a good example. You go through this hole, and the light dims. You're surrounded by darkness. The only things emanating any light are your visor and this little bug with glow-in-the-dark excrement. You follow it around these endless branches until, whoosh, something snatched it away, leaving its corpse on a spiky rock just in front of a door. Whatever did that must be fast, powerful, and just beyond the door. You know what's coming up. You swallow your fear, enter the next room, and then...
You're alone, on a planet, with no hope of survival. But you're also not...
Ladies and gentlemen, Miles McKenzie, a computer guy from the Galactic Federation. He'll butt in from time to time, typically unprompted, to act as the game's navigator. A position that would have felt out of place in the Metroid game if he was written by Ridley Scott himself, but he was conjured up, but I can only assume the Yars Rising guys. Wouldn't be so bad if he had a sailor mouth and tried to get in bed with a 6 feet of beauty in front of him, but little baby Nintendo can't say a no. This is what Game Explain warned us about, and they were right to do so. Start the list. And it sucks even more because he had to be introduced here, with all that build-up. And that thing that killed the little bug, there's tons of them. It could have been an amazing sequence, but no, you got Dimwag like Borderlands crying like a dunce the whole time.
Okay with you, I'm gonna tag along.
No, screw you, get out of here. And then there's this whole bridge thing with even more grievers, and guess what? He's got his own health bar, so now you've got to protect him while he screams at you to use your missile, Samus. Alright, sure! But I guess I've got to go through those other two reasons why Metroid Prime works. Second reason, your shots actually fly. They don't immediately teleport from your gun to the wall, they gradually and visually travel in a straight line. That alone makes combat far more satisfying, giving actual weight and connection to each hit. Third reason, lock-on. And I know someone in the comments looked at my Ultra Kill footage and graciously informed me that there's an auto-aim option in the settings, but the difference is, that's cheating, this is a mandatory gameplay feature. After that, we thankfully get some alone time as Miles finds a good spot to set up camp and decides to stay behind to let Samus scout out the rest of the place.
It's about to get real nerdy in here.
There is not a single person who has used the word nerd in the past decade. Everyone watches anime. Everyone uses Arch. Everyone has an interest in esoteric magic systems. From here we get the control beam, a charge shot activated in scanning mode, whose trajectory is manipulated by motion controls. I always forget that I have this and would often wander around aimlessly trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do. Case in point, the boss of Fury Green, bit. This is a bit! Yes, the tentacle monster named Cervix is meant to serve as a tutorial boss for the control beam. There's these little sacks on its vines that you have to pop in order to expose its weak point, but you have to get all of them at the same time or else they'll grow back. So what happened was that I got stuck here for a good couple of minutes trying to get them all at once with the standard lemons until I tried scanning it to see if there were any weaknesses, and then I pulled out a charge shot and, oh right, that thing! After that's dealt with, we take this cannon, it breaks, and now we're at Volt Forge. Miles is out of the picture for most of it, thank God, as the comms can't exactly reach far enough. See, the problem here is that the power's out. You've got to turn it back on through the generator at the bottom, and you do this by navigating through the tower. A dead place is difficult to navigate. You often have to switch things on with the buster to get things moving for a brief moment. The place is empty, desolate, devoid of anything. Until Samus turns the power back on, and then everything springs to life. This place is in the business of building motorcycles, and every bit of machinery that was passed by there is to craft and inspect each part before they're all put together. The way to get back up is to exploit these machines and trick them into thinking she's one of those parts. However, this also re-enabled the security system, so you also have to deal with these stupid things that have way too much health and are effing everywhere. Finally reaching the top, you're able to take on a motorcycle of your own. Voila! Yes, it's insanely called Viola, like the tiny violin, hence the dashes, but I don't care, I'm calling it Voila! That's right, Samus got herself a motorcycle, a decision that I like to imagine came about because some guy at Retro with a really long beard thought that the smoking hot intergalactic bounty hunter wasn't cool enough, and after shotgunning his 5th bush light of the workday, he belched out, "Make her a Hell's Angel!" That said, all this means right now is you get to go to the next tower, where once again, you go down the tower, turn on the power, and then go up the tower. Only this time, there's a lot more combat, including this little bastard that'll never stay in place, keeps on teleporting around, I can never get a good hit on. Oh, wait, right. And also, that Silas guy, who I guess appeared in those DS spin-offs that I never played. And after that, there's a 3rd tower where you go down and back up. Only this time is to get your registration to be able to shoot things while on the motorcycle. I do love me some motorbike gunplay, although instead of Samus being wicked and using her arm cannon, the Voila instead shoots this thing. Either way though, this 3rd tower is awesome. The whole thing is a bunch of racetracks to test out all the features of the Voila, and it's just so fun! I had just finished Death Stranding 2 about 2 weeks prior, and the motorcycle shootout side quest was still fresh in my mind, so seeing something similar here was crazy. Unfortunately, this is the only part where the Voila really gets to shine, as after getting registered and leaving Volt Forge, we're dropped into the open world of Soul Valley. Everything you've heard is true. There is absolutely nothing here but bugs and crystals, which admittedly are fun to smash through, but that's less because it's actually fun and more because particle effects are to me the same as dangling things in front of a baby. Its sole purpose is to pad out the runtime and give ample breeding room for all the kids. Its sole purpose is to pad out the runtime and give ample breathing room for Miles McKenzie to tell you what you're gonna want to do. Even the developers knew it was a mistake. It was just too far in development to get rid of it. Throw it on the list! Speaking of Miles, he's told me that I can go to whichever corner of the map I want. Let's go up here! Seems I need the spider ball. Alright, let's go over here. Can't cross the lava. This is a Prime game. There's only one golden path. Except you do need to go into the volcano anyway to grab this ship here so you can bring it back to son of a gun. And no, you can't skip the cutscene. You have to sit there and listen to him babble on while your brain turns to mush.
You can now use the fire shot. You can shoot projectiles with extremely high temperature, so I bet targets will burn or melt when they're shot.
Yeah, I could have figured it out all from the name, Fire Shot! But once he's done talking your ears off, it's time to go to that other corner, the ice belt. Wanna know what you do here? You go down, you turn on the power, you go back up. You know what? I'm adding linear design to the list of flaws. The whole turn on the power thing was neat and super because it had a legitimate effect on the gameplay. The doors in the save stations didn't work. Here it's just darker, and this is the 3rd time I've had to do this. However, despite that, this is still fairly different from what was in Volt Forge. For one thing...
Corporal Rieger Tokabi. Fed sniper. Herc unit.
Oh, come on. But he's nowhere near as bad as Mackenzie, so I can deal with him. Plus, he has the common courtesy to shut up and leave you alone. For another, this area brings back one of my favorite parts of the other Prime games. Logbooks! There was a researcher who left out his diaries across the station. He was experimenting on the Grievers to see what made them tick. Turns out, they share the exact same DNA as the Lemures, only poisoned with the green energy that made up all those crystals in the valley. So it's like the red flowers from Cave Story, making these otherwise good and harmless creatures aggressive and dangerous. I love it! Although, as much as I loved finding those, I couldn't help getting extremely annoyed at all the scan points that were just data offline, hard drive corrupted, data offline. Machinery is frozen, data offline. This was another big issue that people had, so throw on the list. But you'll still be scanning everything, because to get down there, you gotta find these psychic shards so you can open the doors. So you'll be combing each floor, dealing with doors that you can't just shoot open, and you gotta get up close, but not too close, and press your hand against them in the combat visor when you just want to stay in scan mode so you can see all the green stuff you got left. Didn't I say that I love this game?
Oh my goodness, I am an idiot. Yes, you can open them with the scan visor. I did that multiple times in the footage. What was I thinking?
Oh yeah, because I do. Look at this section. Outside in the snow, trying to navigate these thin chains while the wind tries to blow you off course. And some of the chains end up collapsing. I always love parts where the terrain is crumbling around you while you're playing instead of relegating it to a cutscene.
Both times this happened were relegated to a cutscene. Okay, so I wrote the parts for Revolt Forge and Icebelt after my first playthrough, before my second. I thought they were fresh enough in my mind for me to talk about them. Apparently they weren't.
Also, while you're going down, you'll notice these frozen pods with more grievers inside them. Some of them are dead, but many have been preserved. Now consider what's going to happen when you turn the power on. Boom! The creatures wake up, and they're out for blood. The security systems are going haywire, but these guys are tearing everything up to get to Samus and to get to the other guy. These things rip through the impenetrable door covers. That's insane! This is awesome! You're climbing back up the entire belt where the grievers are tearing the place up and breaking every route you once passed through. Inching back to the surface as the corrupted axolotls slash at your armor until finally you get back up and... they've already reached their copy. The cripple is at risk! So it's down to the both of you to fend off the grievers, back to back against an army of bloodthirsty killing machines with no guarantee that either of you will make it out alive. I mean, you both do, but still, that is the Ice Belt. An absolutely perfect segment. Even the game's biggest haters agree, this is the highlight of the game. Now let's go head back to Real Nerds so we can screw around with another chip! After a quick pit stop at Volt Forge to upgrade the Vola so it can go on lava, it's time to head back to the volcano, the flare pool. This one's a bit different because the power's already on. Instead of trying to find a switch, you're here trying to find...
There were dozens of higher priority targets back at base. I doubt Fed Command would post their best hunter to rescue duty.
Oh yeah, you're telling me! Yup, here we're trying to bust a few guys out of this place. Meaning they'll stick with you, and they talk. First one's not too bad, Ezra Duke. He's not too obnoxious, and his voice is actually fairly soothing. Would still prefer not to have him along, but what are you gonna do? Nora Armstrong, on the other hand, I think she might be worse than Miles McKenzie. Like seriously, Miles was annoying, but at least he had his own personality. Nora's entire character is that she fawns over Samus's every step, wants to be her bestest friend, and she won't stay the hell away. Meanwhile, Samus is just standing there quietly, and that's another thing. Silent protagonists don't work when everyone else is jabbering around you with full voice acting. This also makes Samus look stoic and cool. It makes her look like a socially awkward autist, probably making a bunch of uwu anime noises under her suit. I've never played other M, but did the baby really traumatize you people that much? So yeah, it's an escort mission. Everyone's favorites. But it's nowhere near as bad as, say, Resident Evil 4, because the guys you're escorting can fight back fairly well themselves. Perhaps even better than I can. But I do have one issue. There's like 2 types of enemies that you'll face throughout the entire pool, and they're the exact same maintenance takes and side boss that we dealt with back in Volt Forge. That's the other issue that people have with this game. There's not a lot of variety in the combat. I didn't really mind. I don't play Metroid Prime for shooting, but it is quite a sticking point. Wait a minute! This isn't Metroid. It's Zelda! Oh, and that is really rad. Suck it down, AG. How's that Gamer Drift garbage going for you now, huh? Finally, a real traditional 3D Zelda, and all it took was piggybacking off of another series. Look, you've got the massive Hyrule field that you traverse on Epona, going through massive puzzle box dungeons that revolve around finding items and then using them to get to the boss. You've got your Navi, your throwable bombs, your hookshot, the Zora Temple, the Goron Mines, the Goron Mines, it's Zelda!
See this? This is good. Really good. It's not Zelda. See this? Even better. Still not Zelda. This is Zelda. This is Zelda. This is Zelda. And this is Zelda.
Of course, it's not nearly as good as the other 3D Zeldas. It was already hurting being compared to the other Metroid games that are on the board of traditional 3D Zeldas, and it's a dead fish. But once you start considering it as a first-person Zelda rather than a Metroid Prime, it becomes so much better. Most of the problems stop being problems. What seems to be a crippling flaw is actually part of the game's identity. This is a fantastic game, just not a good Metroid Prime. And you know what? I've been forgetting to add in my rating scale, so let's go ahead and do that. 8 out of 10. But the fact that it's not a good Metroid Prime is still a sticking point. Compare the 18-year-long wait between Corruption and Beyond to the 19-year-long wait between Fusion and Dread. From 2002 to 2021, you had 5 Castlevanias, 2 Mega Man ZXs, Cave Story, Axiom Verge, Strider 3, Blasphemous, La Mulana, Bloodstained, Guacamelee, Ori and the Blind Forest, Shin Megami Tensei Synchronicity Prologue, and effin' Hollow Knight. There were enough 2D platformers with a focus on exploration and item collecting to coin a whole subgenre literally called the Metroidvania. From 2007 to 2025, you had High on Life featuring Justin Roiland. And even then, I'm only guessing, I haven't actually played it. The first 2 Metroid Prime games are still unique in their structure. There was nothing like them before or since. They're tightly knit worlds that encourage exploration, searching every nook and cranny for more upgrades to power you up and more lore to flesh out the land, still remain elusive in the world of FPSs. That's why, even with how much I adore Metroid Prime 4, I can't really defend it. If I wanted another 3D Zelda, I still haven't finished Majora's Mask, and I haven't even touched Skyward Sword in over a decade. Not to mention, Darksiders 2 and Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver are still in my backlog. I grabbed Metroid Prime 4 because I wanted more Metroid Prime.
Why did you judge a game like this? It's not what you wanted, but you liked it anyway. You judge it for what it is, or what it should have been. That is a question for a more seasoned viewer to answer. All that matters to me is whether or not I enjoyed it. My golly, I enjoyed this quite a lot. Wait a minute, I only covered the first half of the game. Hey, future me, does anything change in the second half?
Dude, there's only one area left to cover the entire game!
Alright, here's the shtick. There's always a shtick, so here's the shtick. I've been working on this video for months. There's been a million different rewrites. The script has gone through so many changes that it barely resembles the original. The original idea was for it to stop at Ice Belt, but I felt like the way I put dual combat in just didn't feel right. So I rewrote it. Still didn't feel right. So I rewrote it, and rewrote it, and rewrote it, and rewrote it, and rewrote it, until eventually I just had to just throw my hands up and say, yep, we're throwing in the flare pool. But now, we're cutting it one area before the end, and that just doesn't feel right. So you know what? We're gonna go ahead and do the Great Minds. I'll be skipping an epic escape sequence, I'll be skipping a refight against Silence, but you know what? I want to get this video done. I want to be done with this, so you know what? We're skipping to the Great Minds.
The gang's all here, thankfully except for Miles, but unfortunately we do still have Nora, along with Tokabi, Ezra, and View, a robot that you meet up with while backtracking through the Ice Belt. And for some reason, it's a they-them. I am not playing your stupid pronoun game. Chris is a dude, and he raped Noelle. Retcon it all you want, you won't unmolest the deer. This area reminds you of the Phazon Mines from Prime 1, not only because it's a mine, but because it's one of those endgame levels that was very clearly phoned in for the sake of a finale, so it drags like a fresh corpse in the moonlight. Alright, that is grossly unfair. Yeah, it's not as good as the first 4 areas, but it's nowhere near as bad as the Inverted Castle or, God forbid, Chapter 7 The Boat. It's just, you know, more cinematic, more bombastic, more focused on shooting things. Okay, so maybe it is Chapter 7 The Boat. Here we got a whole buttload of grievers because we're breaking all the old machinery and causing a ruckus, and they're attracted to sound. One of the earlier drafts complained that the Ice Belt just had too many grievers and not enough of anything else. There, I felt like a jerk. Here, it's warranted because it's nothing but a constant swarm of them, and I almost feel like I'm playing Nuts.Y. There's some breathing room to take on one of the delicious puzzles, but then they get punctuated by yet another swarm. It's still fun, because Metroid Prime's shooting is still leagues above nearly every other FPS, but it ain't what I'm here for. But what about the other guys? Well, they're here primarily to get Final Fantasy IV. You know, when one of your guys gets sacrificed, you can keep on going, only for him to come back at the end screaming, but I didn't really die! Yeah, that's getting Final Fantasy IV. I typically hate when this happens because it lowers the stakes and undermines the emotional impact of the sacrifice, ultimately making for a weaker and more contrived story.
Okay, my voice gets faster because I don't well said so.
But I liked it here because it gave me hope that Nora got. But she didn't. And neither did anyone else because they're all here to greet Samus after finishing off the Omega Griever. And now I've got to find some mech parts and grind for Energy Crystals, so yep, we've hit the end game. And on that note, I want to touch on something. There's no Metroids. A Metroid game with no Metroids. We wiped nearly the whole species off the map in the second game, and the brain finished off the last one in the third, and they still kept coming even after that. Now here's a game that takes place before Return of Samus, and all you get is that some of the bosses were injected with some of that jellyfish juice.
Okay, so actually I was wrong on this. This takes place in between Super and Fusion, so I've gotta give kudos. to the crazy cojones, the gargantuan gonads, the titanium testicles that it took to put a game that takes place around the same time as Metroid Other M. Or chastise them for the lack thereof if they retconned that one out of existence. But then that begs the question of, where did the Metroids come from to fuse with the bosses?
And that leads into another nitpick I've got, the name. Most of the games after Return of Samus, the subtitle is relevant not only to the game, but to the Metroids themselves. Super Metroid? Yeah, that one. Metroid Fusion? Grab the syringe. Metroid Prime? That's the final boss. Metroid Prime Echoes? That's how Dark Samus is created. Metroid Prime Corruption? Oh, that was actually pointed out in the commercial.
But what frightens her most? She likes it.
But I've got no clue what Metroid Prime Beyond is supposed to mean. Or for that matter, what the Metroids are dreading. But other than that, yeah, great game. Ice Belt was great, Flare Pool was great, the Great Minds were good, and while it may be a case of condemning by faint praise, this one has the best pointless endgame scavenger hunt in the series. There's only 6 things, they're out in the open and mostly in the same area, and 2 of them even have boss fights attached. I even like the part where you grind for energy crystals, though again, that's largely because it's just really satisfying to break stuff.
What are you looking at my left for? I hate Limp Bizkit.
And not to mention that final fight against Psylocke, oh wow! Like, yeah, that first phase was kinda mostly because of the constant chatter. Why couldn't they have been Final Fantasy 2? But when it's just Samus versus Psylocke, it is completely and totally wicked. I know I didn't touch on most of the other boss fights because I didn't play Metroid Prime for the combat, but there is no way I'm passing up a chance to mention how awesome this last fight is. He's even got his own little morph ball that can steal your E-tanks. I have got to play Hunters. Oh, and when you beat him, he comes back and ding dong, Miles and Nora are dead! For real this time.
So yeah, good game. Game good. I liked it. Should have been more of a Metroid and less of a Zelda. And also it said that it was only 10 hours long. Honestly, it felt like a perfect length, if not bloated. So, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm apologizing for Sonic Frontiers for saying that was a bad game for only being 14 hours. I mean, it's still a bad game, but the fact that it's less than 15 hours isn't a reason. This is the second video in a row where I've done this Future Me Takes Over gimmick, and not a single time have I been able to think of a good way to end it. You know, cut the black.